Marginal revenue, marginal cost. Welcome to FRE Lunch.
Happy holidays from FRE Lunch.
To celebrate, we got you a gift, a very special seasonal season of FRE Lunch.
Are you allowed to say seasonal twice like that?
Anyway, for anyone who just got here, I'm Elena Poulin.
And I'm Caleb Stair.
And this is the official podcast of the Food and Resource Economics Department at the University of Florida.
Each episode of this mini-season will provide a bite-sized insight into economic aspects of your favorite holiday traditions and the hardworking producers who make them possible.
With that, we hope you'll enjoy this season, and on with the episode.
From presents to poinsettias, today's episode is all about the largest plant sale in the nation.
Well, student run anyway. Also, it's poinsettias, Caleb.
Psh, whatever, Elena. You made me talk about real versus fake Christmas trees last year. Now more plants?
But they're not just any plants, Caleb. This is about ornamental plants.
Ornamental? You mean like the things you put on Christmas trees?
No, these plants are cultivated for their aesthetic appeal and valued for the features like flowers, leaves, and foliage.
Oh, so things like roses, tulips, and the subject of today's episode, poinsettias.
Exactly, Caleb, poinsettias. And to talk more about it, we're joined by two guest experts from the UF Environmental Horticulture Club, which runs the UF annual poinsettia sale.
Our first expert is Erin Alvarez, the club advisor.
I'm Erin Alvarez. I'm a lecturer in the Environmental Horticulture Department. I've been a faculty member at UF since, 2007, but I've been with the Environmental Hort Department as a lecturer since 2017, and it's been really great. Part of my job is being a co-advisor for our Environmental Horticulture Club. So I'm 100% teaching. I teach undergrad courses and club advisement.
We are also joined by Brian Doe, an undergraduate at the University of Florida and current club president.
So I'm a fourth-year undergraduate student here at the University of Florida. I'm a biology and classical studies dual degree student on the pre-med track. So it's a very succinct way of just saying that I like learning about a lot of things, plants, medicine, history, all of that sort of stuff.
And so for our listeners who might not be as well versed on the technical side of things, what is environmental horticulture?
Yeah, it's a question we were just talking about. We talk about that frequently. For what we do, environmental horticulture, I like to call it the plants you look at, not the plants you eat. But as our horticulture and our landscapes evolve, that is blurring.
Like myself, Brian is from Pennsylvania and became interested in joining the Environmental Hort Club to get back to his roots.
So the reason why I originally wanted to join the Environmental Horticulture Club was during my sophomore year, I was just really interested in reconnecting with plants since during my childhood, I used to grow a lot of plants. And for example, my parents, we're Vietnamese, and my dad, for example, would grow a lot of like different Vietnamese plants back at home in Pennsylvania, where I'm originally from. And I just wanted to reconnect with that and just learn more about plants in general, because it's something that I back then didn't know much about. And it's something that you see every day. You like go outside, you walk, and you see a bunch of plants. But if you don't know what they are, it's hard to appreciate them. And so that's why I wanted to join the club. And also because once I joined the club, I found that the people there were great people, very down-to-earth people, and I just enjoyed just talking with them and how genuine they were. And so that's why I joined the club, and that's why I stayed with the club.
Erin also grew up in a family of gardeners, but didn't keep pursuing that green thumb directly in her studies at first.
Oh gosh. For me, I just grew up with it. Everybody in my family had gardens, and we grew things like tulips or, native plants that brought butterflies and other pollinators. But we'd also, have food in the garden for all kinds of things. And it really wasn't until, I studied gardens as an English major. My first degree was in English here at UF. And I was really interested in how gardens were used in literature and vice versa and society. And then it wasn't until I'd been working at the Alligator newspaper for a few years, my mom went back to school and studied landscape design. And I was like, wait, you can do this for a job? Like, this is a career in a whole industry. And sure enough, I'm like, oh, of course, Erin, there's people who produce the tulips you plant every spring and, the dusty miller you put in your annual box. And it opened a whole world to me. And I could use my literature background for communications, but I kind of fell into it sideways. And the people were what really cemented it.
Now, my grandfather used to say that anything you couldn't eat was a weed. But that's not really true?
We're connected to plants in a certain way, whether it's our environment, how we're physically wired, our biology. We have sensory inputs that are meant to go complement certain plants in our environment. Our preferences, often are based on plants. We need plants functionally to survive, whether it's a tree you're sitting under or a plant on your desk at work. I think we have that connection. And, we saw it during COVID where everyone suddenly became a gardener. And what did we do when we were away from other people? We brought a lot of times pets or plants into our environment so that we'd have that connection and that kind of replication for the natural world, or people sought out outdoor spaces more and more.
Different people might feel connected to different types of plants based on their own experiences.
And I think people want that, whether it's conscious or subconscious, or it's a reminiscence of a family member. So many people talk about getting into ornamental plants and gardening in general. It's like food. You learn kind of often from your family or your family of origin or where you grew up or your culture you were in, and that translates. And so whether it's you go to the garden center and pick up a native because you want that connection to your landscape around you and those animals, or you go and buy cyclamen because that's what your grandmother always had when you went to visit her on her table. I think all of us have something that we can speak to. So, you may not go all out and grow poinsettias like we do, but it's still that connection that people have.
Not only are these plants pretty, certain types of native ornamental plants benefit our ecosystems as well. Brian has showcased this in his research studying a type of plant known as the blazing star.
And it's a very beautiful plant. It grows very tall, so it's got great vertical dimension, like in, for example, gardens. And that's something that a lot of gardens, they don't really have. Some like pretty flowers that grow like tall like that, like liatris. And yeah, it's just very pretty. And it's got a lot of ecological value for our pollinators, our butterflies and our bees. And it's also got some medicinal use from our Native Americans and just other Anglo-American uses back in like history, and all of that is really fascinating to me, and that's why I've been researching it for the past more than a year and a half now.
Many of these ornamental plants are seasonal, like the poinsettia, which is seen all over the place this time of year.
Yeah, so I like to think of ornamental plants in regard to its significance culturally and historically as well. So in addition to the ornamental plants just being pretty, for example, the poinsettia that we're growing has a very long history of why it's associated with the season of Christmas and winter in general.
Did you know that the poinsettia gets its name from an American diplomat to Mexico back in the 1800s? Joel Roberts Poinsett. While he was in Mexico, he saw how the plant was being used by friars and thought it was so beautiful he brought it back to Brian and I's state of Pennsylvania.
He brought the poinsettia to Philadelphia in like the early 1800s at I believe it's the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society. And from then on, the plant just grew in popularity.
This popularity has grown so much over the years that here at UF, interest in poinsettias fuels the largest student-led plant sale in the country, one that sells out year after year.
So now we're around 4,300 to 4,500 plants in the physical space we can get. And it supports everything from the grower team to field trips. Brian's organizing in-state field trips right now for the students to see botanical gardens and horticultural operations, club t-shirts, their international trip that we take every May to look at horticultural sites around the globe. So it funds a lot.
One of the bigger themes of our season this year for the holidays is kind of taking a moment to appreciate the work of producers behind the scenes that enables all these holiday traditions we've come to know and love. So with that in mind, can you guys describe for our audience a little bit of, I guess, the labor process involved with getting these poinsettias to be ready for us to take home and enjoy?
Sure, yeah. So it all starts in the dawn of time with the dinosaurs. No, I'm kidding. No, we start right after the sale in January, where the growers will go and look at what the breeders, which are the people who produce the hybrids of the poinsettias that we sell, they'll say what's coming up the next year. And so we will start placing our orders that spring.
After that order is placed, a partner in Apopka, Knox Horticulture, will take the plants and prepare them to be shipped to Gainesville, where the real work for the Environmental Horticulture Club begins in August.
So we get the poinsettias as rooted cuttings around late August, and we grow it for a few months, and they start to have the big beautiful foliage. So scientifically it's called the bracts, but the foliage or the foliage or whatever, however you want to pronounce it.
Ha ha ha.
Yes, that beautiful foliage will be there in time for Christmas. So basically around late November is when the plants are big and beautiful and colorful.
So, and that will vary based on where you're growing them. In their native habitat, they want to be like a 12-foot tall, rangy shrub. And they flower, based on the length of the day and night. So if they're not lit artificially at night, you'll see people have them in their gardens year round. And sometimes they'll flower on time. The flowers dependent on the light.
From the time the team receives these plants to the sale, thousands of hours have been put into preparing these picturesque poinsettias.
We receive them, as Brian mentioned, usually third week of August, fourth week, sometimes first week of September, sometimes over a range depending on the variety. And we have a team of growers every year from 6 to 8 students, plus an officer team of 6 students. Sometimes there's an overlap of 1 or 2 officers are also on our grower team. But we get whoever's on deck at the end of summertime to come and unpack the poinsettias. They come shipped in boxes, in trays. So they're laid out. And then we do everything from producing labels. The students get together, volunteers. How many workday volunteers do we usually have those potting work days?
Oh, and potting work days, like some days we have like 10 people. Like even like some days, like we offer like extra like hours for people who want to volunteer, especially when we have a lot of work to do. Usually those days we might have like 15, even 20 people at our work day. So it's a very big operation with lots of help.
Mm-hmm. And some of those work days, those are all club volunteers along with our paid grower team. And they're supervising the growers, the club volunteers. Those work days will range anywhere from 2 to 3 hours. But some of those larger work days will be 8 hours. So we'll have 2 shifts during the day, bring in food. It's a lot of labor that goes into it. They're then put in our greenhouse. And then our grower team, along with the volunteers, will have either work days or just 2 shifts a day for the growers to go and check the plants. And they do everything from monitoring plant health to irrigation to light to random problems like the wind blowing things over and we have to put, the walls down. We also have support from our department and facility in the way of our operations manager and our greenhouse facility manager. They're full-time employees and staff who will help us with things like pest control, chemical application, troubleshooting the myriad mechanical issues that occur in a greenhouse environment, everything from our shade cloth to our walls to the irrigation to pumps breaking. There's a lot that goes into managing the plants from a physical environment standpoint.
The club grows many varieties of poinsettias, from mainstream favorites to the cult classics.
We always have to have some kind of variegated speckled looking poinsettia. People love those. They always sell out right away. There's one variety called Winter Rose, which looks like someone put a scrunchie, like a red scrunchie on top of a poinsettia. And I love that scrunchies are back because like 10 years ago, I couldn't say it looks like a scrunchie. No one knew what I meant.
Right.
Now everybody knows again. Those are highly polarizing, but if we don't have them, people get mad. They want to know where the winter roses are. But other people are like, I hate those. They look terrible. So it just depends on preference. But ultimately, it's what we can grow and what people like.
After months of intensive labor, you'd think it'd be time to kick back and relax, but not quite.
So usually we start with like the logistics, like at least a couple of days before the actual sale day. So for example, we might tie some of the trays to carts so that people can put their poinsettias into the trays on the cart so that they can like wheel it from the greenhouse to their car. We also organize, for example, lunches for the sale day. So for our volunteers, like being in the greenhouse from like 8 a.m. until 6 p.m., we're getting hungry, So we have lunch and we also organize all of that.
Breakfast.
Yes, breakfast as well.
Coffee.
Yes, coffee. Yep. Tea, whatever you'd like. And we also organize, for example, our like signage and posters. So letting customers know the prices of our poinsettias. And so one thing that we do is that for each poinsettia, we put a colored sticker on each one to denote the price, and then the signage will let people know which color sticker corresponds to which price.
Another key focal point of the club's activities is their dedication to community service.
We try to give back, and that's something that Brian has really done a lot this year is reinvigorated the club's service mission. We've always been very service-oriented, but, we've done work at different elementary schools and with therapeutic horticulture programs, but I think Brian's really led the charge in kind of giving back with the club resources.
Yeah, so last year I was the secretary of the club, but this year and last year, I have been trying to focus our club's basically time and effort into doing more community service around here in Gainesville and just the campus as well. And so some of the volunteer events that we do is, for example, we go out to different forests and parks around Gainesville and we remove invasive plants. We also help, for example, the UF Native Plant Nursery and Wilmot Gardens as well. For example, with the Native Plant Nursery, we help to pot plants and to help grow native plants for restoration purposes. And for Wilmot Gardens, we help them with their own plant sale. And yeah, so we do a lot of things around here in Gainesville just to try to give back to the community.
Why do all this? Well, there isn't a single good reason. There are several.
What I've gained from this club is I'd say number one is just the friends and the experiences that I've made. Those are invaluable. And my experiences in this club is definitely a big memory of my time here in college. But I mean, other than just like friends and just like learning different things and experiences, I'd say also just, for example, industry connections as well. For example, a few weeks ago, I was tabling for our club at the Fall Horticultural Expo in Newberry, and I got to meet with an expert on invasive plants, and I was asking her all sorts of questions about like invasive plant management and all that sort of stuff. So knowledge about that and connections. I also met a person who was representing the Gainesville Camellia Society, and they asked me if I wanted to perhaps present my research at one of their meetings as a guest speaker. And so just like little things like that, like I was there just to table, but from that, I gained a lot of new connections and experiences and opportunities that I can pursue in the future.
Well, and coming from the consumer side of things, we definitely appreciate that you all do this. It's 10 to 20 people, like you said, 10 were at the potting days, that sort of thing, who are producing these plants that maybe thousands of people will get to enjoy, pass by, see. So, which is kind of the emphasis of what this season is. We're trying to really establish this sense of appreciation of how much effort goes into all of these different holiday traditions. That being said, is there anything you would like to leave our listeners with in terms of information they'd like to take away from this podcast?
Grow more plants.
And enjoy them.
Right. No, just, enjoy your plants, spread the word, come to our Poinsettia sale and buy the plants these students have worked really hard to produce. But
December 4th and 5th.
Link will be in the description.
That's right. Don't be afraid to look at where that connection to plants can touch your life in ways. And, I don't want to sound too touchy-feely about it, but literally I'm very tactile. So I will go to a garden center and thankfully I know what plants I'm touching, but I'm on a hike. I'm the first one to have the hike leader go, no, don't touch, that's poisonous. I had to learn that the hard way a few times, but whatever your connection point is, and like you mentioned, if you don't know what you're looking for, you just miss it. So that we call it, plant blindness is a term that was used a few years ago, but it's that lack of awareness. So just take a minute and look, identify your friendly plant. Google Lens and iPhones and iNaturalist are great ways to identify plants you're looking at. And take a minute to learn a little bit about them.
Thank you both for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
So, as we wrap up this episode, this season, and this year, we hope you'll remember that there is a lot that goes into our enjoyment of the holidays.
From growers to processors to retailers and more, these agricultural products have become more than just commodities. They have become traditions.
Traditions that we enjoy with our friends, families, and loved ones, and that become memories we'll hold on to for many years to come. We hope you've enjoyed learning a bit more and encourage you to keep exploring the connections below the surface.
One way to do so will be to keep listening to FRE Lunch. We will be back in 2026 to celebrate the department's centennial.
For now, we will leave you with some info in the episode's description and our best wishes for the holiday season.